All right. So you were saying that you were elected to the Board of Supervisors in 1964.
Right.
And what made you decide to run for the Board of Supervisors?
Well, a friend of mine actually, who was principal of the school that I was on the board, uh, just put it to me and said, Dewey, we'd like to have you run for the Board of Supervisors. And so there was two or three other people, including the incumbent, running, but they talked me into it, so I ran and won the election.
And
Not the first time around, though. I had to come back for the second round. I had some pretty good competition, so I won it in the final, in the big election.
in those days, how did you campaign? How did
On
people
foot,
so you
Door
go
to door.
door to door?
door to door. I probably covered every house in the district.
And what were your chief concerns when you were running?
Well, that was a lot of years ago. I'd have to give it a little bit of thought, I guess, but there's always something. Streets always need repairing. The fire department needs uh, getting enhanced a little bit, that sort of thing.
They had issues like the freeway up the valley.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Were you concerned about population growth and
Well,
development?
but before I got off the board, I guess I would be. I was served Napa County as their representative to the Association of Bay Area Governments, and they were always looking for means of enhancing the roads and doing whatever to better the county.
And were you concerned about the loss of agricultural land when you
Well,
first joined?
I guess in a way that was rather important to me. And probably was one of the reasons for starting the ag reserve or enhancing it one way or the other, because we were having a little spot of land here annexed to the city, a little spot here, a little spot there, and first thing you know, we were getting kind of a muddled up arrangements. So I think that's probably one of the reasons that the group of men that created the Ag Reserve got really involved in it and pushed it and passed it.
And I think also the city of Napa at that time had a very aggressive expansion program. They had a city plan that included everything down and south of the airport all the way to American Canyon and practically over to the Solano County line. That was all considered a part of the city's general plan at that time. They were halfway to Yountville, so the future city of Napa was going to be very big.
I agree with that, Jim. Um, we could see what was happening, especially in the south part of the county and the counties to the south of us, and it was just they were outgrowing us actually, and I think that was one of the reasons that the board members, along with me, were pretty much country oriented and interested in Napa County as a whole, and so I think that had a lot to do with it.
And you had a long history in Napa County.
Well, I was born and raised here, virtually in the same spot where I'm living.
That's not only unusual, that's unbelievable.
It is. And you were the third generation.
Yeah, I sure am. Yeah.
And before I ask you a few more questions about the Ag Preserve, I wanted to ask you about your children. Now, you and Joyce had 3 children.
3 children, 2 boys, Scott and Todd, and 1 daughter, Kim. And they all but Kim still live in Napa County, actually in Napa, or St. Helena. And my daughter lives in Fresno.
But I know Scott, of course, lives in St.
St.
Helena.
Helena.
And Todd.
Todd lives in Napa.
Uh-huh.
He lives in the Browns Valley area, just to build a new home out there.
And you have grandchildren.
One of the boys is married and has 1 child. He's about 5 years old.
That's Olivia.
Olivia, yeah.
And his wife is Lisa Marie.
Lisa Marie, yeah. That's it.
Olivia is friends with my grandson.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
They're
That's
both
who you
5.
are. Oh, okay.
Yes. So I get to see Olivia from time to time.
Well, I don't see a lot of her myself.
Now, in '64, then you joined the Board of Supervisors. And what do you remember? What do you first remember about the concept of the Ag Preserve?
Well, there were so many people involved that it's pretty hard for me to remember 40 years ago. But at any rate, fortunately, all the board members saw fit to move ahead with the Ag Preserve concept. And it was anything but easy, believe me. We had a lot of struggles and a lot of lots and lots of pains.
Well, you had a lot of hearings, didn't you?
A lot of what?
Hearings.
Well, yes, we did. Yeah, we sure did. Some of them got pretty sticky, but the hearings got to the point in size that we didn't have, our chambers weren't big enough to handle the crowd, so we had to have our hearings in the city council quarters.
Or in the gymnasium, the high school gymnasium.
Well, yeah, I forgot.
In the which gymnasium?
The various high schools,
Oh.
they had to have more room because even the council chamber wasn't big enough to contain the people who showed up. In one memo that I read, the county planning department says a total of 55 public hearings were held.
That's a lot of
Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors.
all together.
55 public meetings.
Because first there were the hearings before the Planning Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Planning Commission had its hearings.
That's right.
And I guess recommended to the Board of Supervisors
Mm-hmm.
the creation of the Ag Preserve. Then
Yeah.
you had to have your own hearings.
Yes, we did.
Do you remember a lot of contention at the hearings?
Well, a couple of meetings, it almost got down to fisticuffs. We had a couple of fellows that were really adamant about us doing this particular stunt, and so they virtually attacked poor Julius Kyoka, who was chairman of the Board of Supervisors at that time, and so we had to kind of back him up a little bit.
But there was consensus among the Board of Supervisors.
Well, we all agreed that this was the right way to go after a lot of study and reading everything we could possibly read and making ourselves aware of what it was all about.
It was a very novel idea to create the Ag Preserve because there was no other county that had done this.
You know, we were the first county in the United States.
So it was very brave action for you to take.
Well, I don't know whether it was brave or crazy, but
Some of the people at the public hearings had a different word for it.
yes,
It wasn't brave.
it wasn't brave.
Well,
Yeah.
the Williamson Act was in place.
Oh yes, we depended on that considerably. We well, there were already parcels of land and ranches and whatnot, even around Napa, that were involved with the Williamson Act. So it.
But that wouldn't help the whole county.
Oh no. What we did was separate deal.
And how did you feel during the hearing process when people became very angry? Was that difficult?
Well, I guess it was difficult in a way, but we didn't back down.
It certainly took a lot of time when I interview people and I find out how much time people spent on this. It's really extraordinary.
Well, it was. We spent a lot of time. There's no doubt about it.
A lot of evenings and a lot of
Yeah.
discussion and meetings during the day, and
That's right.
pulled a lot of people away from their families
Well, kind of.
for a while.
It would appear that it started talking about it somewhere in 67, and the bulk of it was in 68, and you finished up the zoning in 69, so it was spread over maybe 2.5 years before you, from the beginning to the end of it.
Well, we actually passed the I don't know what you want to call it, but we passed the Ag Preserve in 68, April of 68, I think it was, as I recall.
Yes.
But then having created it, you had to go on and do the rezoning.
Oh, yeah.
That was another
Yep, we sure did.
process.
How long did you serve on the Board of Supervisors? Do you remember when you stepped down?
8 years.
8 years.
I went on the board in 64 and went off in 72. I served 2 terms.
Okay. Jim brought me a very interesting photograph of you with the rest of the board members in 1971, which I wanted to show you. And you're circled there.
Well, I was
Do you remember that?
I was chairman for 2 terms.
So you were chairman after the Ag Preserve was created?
Yes, I have to stop and think myself, but a term was 4 years, and I served 2 terms.
Uh-huh.
And of course, 64, and Julie was chairman in 64, and he's already off of the board there.
Yes, he's off of the board there. So
You and Henry are left.
Yeah,
Henry Wigger's on there.
Marshall Sears,
that's Joe Peatman,
Joe Peatman,
uh,
Edward Bernard.
Ed Bernard, and
Is that this? Is it?
that's
That's
Ed.
Ed
Edward Bernard.
and Henry Wigger.
Henry Wigger is right there.
You were in pretty small chambers.
Oh. Well, we used to think that was great because we didn't have such big crowds to have to put up with.
But when some of the people came to talk, apparently they'd have to wait in another room because there wasn't enough room.
Sometimes. We moved into the judges' chambers sometimes, either Kainsgard or Blankenberg's.
Empty courtroom. An empty courtroom.
Empty
We
courtrooms.
needed more space.
Mm-hmm. A little more room.
How did you feel when the Ag Preserve passed?
Well, elated.
Were you surprised that actually you were able to do this?
Not really. I think we had our minds set that we were going to do it.
So you felt pretty confident,
Yeah, pretty much.
even with disagreement.
Well, you never have everything go just beautifully and smooth and whatnot. There's always some problems, in politics especially. So we weren't surprised. We weren't too surprised.
Now, one of the largest objections from people was the fact that they would no longer be able to subdivide their properties for their children. So you probably sympathized with that.
Well, we did. We felt badly about that, but it was almost a necessity to do the way we did.
You couldn't have done it otherwise. What was a disappointment? Were you disappointed at all in any part of that process of getting the Ag Preserve passed?
No, I don't think we were really. The the real problem that we were having in the county was that we'd have a person stake out a piece of property and try to rezone it, and it would be partially in the city, and then a little spot of agricultural land over here and something else here, and it was difficult to keep the county together in the agricultural sense with different locations being subdivided.
Uh-huh.
In the adoption of the preserve, people always raise the question of why Pete Clark abstained, why he didn't vote. And the answer was that the legal department advised him that he had missed a public hearing, and in order to make sure that there wasn't a default in the adoption, he abstained from voting on it. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Pete was at all the hearings other than one, and I think he was ill. Actually, was his problem. But Pete was about as straight-laced as they came, so he wouldn't pull any funnies.
He was always for the preserve.
Oh, I know.
He was always for the preserve.
Yep. Well, Pete and I were pretty well. Actually, all the board members were pretty close, but some closer than others. But Pete and I served primarily on the big road deals. Pete was always very active in facing problems with the Dewey Road. We went back to Washington and did all kinds of shenanigans to try to get things done for Napa County.
Oh, so now why were you going to Washington?
To meet with some of the big wheels that had the money.
Now, was this connected with the Ag Preserve or
No,
another?
not necessarily. No, that was just another little thing that Pete and I were interested in.
Can you tell us anything that you remember about the other members of the Board of Supervisors? Julius Kayoka, for instance?
Well, Julius was really always for it. He was chairman when it took place, and I think that everybody was pretty much in favor of it, really.
Did Pete get off of the Board of Supervisors about the same time you did, or did his?
Pete passed away before I got off the board, I think.
Oh, he died before.
Yeah, he did.
And now I wanted to ask you something about the lawsuit. If you remember anything about the lawsuit that was filed after the passage of the Ag Preserve.
It was Daniels and the group from Up Valley.
John Daniel.
I don't really remember too much about the lawsuit other than the fact that we won it.
You won it at the lower court level and on the appeals level.
Yeah, right.
It never got to the Supreme Court.
No, it didn't.
It went to the Superior Court.
Superior Court.
And now in 1972, you stepped down.
I was beaten in the election.
Oh, you were?
That's a good reason to step down.
And who was it that took your place?
Did I what?
Who took your place?
John Tudor.
Oh, it was John Tudor, right. Were you disappointed?
No, to be honest with you, I was getting a little tired of, I think being chairman for as many years as I was, it was wearing me down. And I wasn't all that disappointed.
You also were in a new district. It was redistricting, and you and you had American Canyon as a part of your area again.
I figured it was about time to get off.
Well, you were quite busy. You had a business to run as well as.
Well, I was trying to.
Now, when you stepped down from the Board of Supervisors, did you stay quite active with the land use developments in Napa County?
Well, not really. I tended more to my business and keeping it going. And with the ranch here and whatnot, well, I was pretty busy.
Now, so when you were with the Board of Supervisors, you had your automobile repair business, or had you already sold that?
No, let's see. I'm trying to remember.
You took over the auto repair business from your father in 1950.
50, well, I still had it.
So you still had it.
Yeah.
So you probably hadn't started your Oak Leaf Ranch.
No, I started
business
it in '66.
Oh, you started so you had both.
Well, not really. Not really. I kind of let the garage business disappear.
Did you, when you were on the Board of Supervisors, you must have had to do a lot of research on land use issues, or had you known very much about them?
I didn't really know all that much about it. It came right down to it. But it didn't take very long to get wise.
Well, and I think the board would direct the staff to do research for the board. If you had a question, you would ask the legal department, public works department, the planning department to look up and give you the background so that you could decide an issue that may be before you. That's what the staff was for.
That's right. That's right, Jim. We'd have been in trouble without the backups.
Do you remember Mervyn Learnhardt?
Yes.
He, what do you remember about Mervyn?
Well, he was a good attorney, and he was for the Ag Preserve, obviously. He helped us save it, so to speak.
He defended it.
Yep.
When
right.
there was the lawsuit.
Yep.
And he was a very young lawyer at the time.
Yes, he was.
Jack Ferguson said that Learnhardt did a lot of the drafting of the wording of the preserve and did a lot of the defense when it was taken to court. That he was assigned to that by the county counsel's office, but he was not the county counsel. He was an assistant to the county counsel. Right. But he carried most of the legal load on the Ag Preserve, according to Jack Ferguson.
Yeah. Well, Jack was pretty well aware of what was going on.
We interviewed Mervyn earlier, so it's very interesting to have all of your stories now. And I wanted to ask you about your view of Napa County today.
Well, in what respect?
In terms of the Ag Preserve, how do you feel about it today?
Well, I think it's done a world of good. Just it's made Napa County famous worldwide.
Are there things that you would have done differently? Are there things that you disagree with?
No, I don't think so. I think the plan was very well laid out and had a lot of good people involved.
What about some of the other measures that have taken place since then? You've been in favor of those?
Well, I haven't been as involved or really on those measures as I was the Ag Preserve because I wasn't particularly thoroughly involved in it and didn't really know all the ring and outs of the thing. So I couldn't very well. I was busy with my ranch and that was about all I could handle.
How do you feel about the changes that you've seen in the county now? Since you grew up here and very few of us have, how do you feel about all the changes in the county?
Well, once in a while I wonder. I noticed that one of the supervisors is questioning in his mind about the hotel development sort of thing, and I'll grant you, I think maybe sometimes they're overdoing it a little bit. They expect Napa County to become New York, I guess, but I don't think I'll ever want to see that.
Well, you've seen phenomenal change to the city of Napa.
Well, that, yes. Yep, I have had nothing to do with it, however.
This whole area, when you first got your ranch, must have been all open and rural land.
It was.
And now we see incredible development.
Well, I've had the ranch for 43 years, I guess, and it's just 2003 I decided to sell 10 acres off of the 27, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. But as I grew older, I got to a point where I couldn't handle it as well, and I thought that that was the best way to go.
How do you feel about the future of Napa County? I mean, it's a constant challenge to try to balance the needs of development with the needs of the Ag Preserve.
Well, I can't speak for what is going to happen. The Ag Reserve, I think, has held up pretty well. We've had a responsible board of supervisors, which is very important. It's almost a necessity to keeping the Ag Reserve, period. So as long as we have people that think that way, why, I don't think we'll have any great problem.
You think that the Ag Preserve will continue beyond the 50 years that it's been extended for?
Well, it may.
50 years, an additional 50 years would mean it had been in force and effect for 90 years.
Yeah.
That's a rather long run for any piece of legislation.
Yes, it is. Sure is.
When the Ag Preserve passed, do you remember other counties being interested, other staff from other counties talking to you about it to see whether they might do something similar?
Not really. I personally am not aware of it. But I think that Sonoma County is the closest one that thinking about things like that.
There were inquiries over the years from places like I can't think of the name.
You mean from other counties?
From other counties, in Alameda County, over near where the Santa Rita prison farm is now. I can't think of the name of the town over there where they used to. There's a fairly well-known wine area over there. Is it Pleasanton? Anyway, they wanted to create, and they sent people over to talk to us about how to create a preserve because they wanted to get into the wine business again, and they were looking to try and preserve the land that was left for agriculture, and subsequently they did that, and yes, we heard from them about how to preserve and what the procedures and all that sort of thing. That was from.
Was that a county-wide?
No, that was just in the city.
Oh, just in the city.
Yeah, the city was interested in I guess they were interested in the tourism business, and they wanted to make sure they had land for vineyards because they were getting a lot of subdividing. That was in Alameda County. They were interested in it.
What about San Joaquin County?
Yeah, we had inquiries from other counties. Mendocino County at one point in time was interested in it.
What happened with Mendocino?
It looked like they went to marijuana.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
That's the biggest agricultural cash crop they have.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
And I wanted to ask you also, I know when I've been reading some of the newspaper articles at the time, they were talking about tourism in Napa County being at 250,000 a year, and now we have 5 million tourists a year. Did you ever think that would happen?
No, No, I didn't. Mm-mm.
What do you think about the pressures of tourism?
Well, there are a lot of them. I don't get involved in that too much anymore at my age. Why, I'm lucky to keep my ranch going.
And now, how do you are boarding horses today on your ranch?
I'm just about ready to retire.
Oh, you are?
Hmm.
Good for you.
But you still have horses on the property
Oh yeah.
that you're
Oh,
boarding.
yeah.
And who helps you take care of them?
Well, I hire people and work, 2 or 3 people,
Uh-huh.
because we're not nearly as large as we used to be.
Do you have a breeding program still?
No more. No more. We used to breed 4, 5, 6 horses a year, and that kept us busy.
Would you like to add, what would you like to add for future generations to know about the Ag Preserve?
Gee.
What would you like to tell Olivia?
Well, I don't know what I should tell her. I'm not so sure that her father is going to push agriculture as far as she's concerned, but could be. Who knows?
Do you think she'll have a good future here in Napa County?
Well, I would think so. Her mother was involved, of course, in the wine business, and so it may be that she'd follow up.
And I'm sorry to hear your wife died about 7 years ago.
1991.
And was she supportive of the Ag Preserve?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She almost had to be with her husband involved.
Jim, would you like to add anything?
No, I simply would comment that Dewey, as one of the supervisors, and as he's indicated, it was not the most popular proposal that ever came before the board. But the board, amazingly, when you think about the boards today, and you think about the politics you're getting out of Sacramento and Washington, that here was a board of 5 people coming up with an idea that really hadn't been tried or tested anywhere, and they stuck with it all the way down from the beginning right to the end and adopted it. And now 40 years later, everybody says we all knew it would be a success, but the people saying we knew it would be a success aren't the people who took the county to court and challenged its legality and fought it. So you have to admire their determination back in 1968. It was a completely different situation.
Did you have any problems with friends personally who were angry with you?
No, none.
I know some people had ruptured relationships with friends because of the Ag Preserve, but you
No,
didn't.
I never had. No. Of course, I was a native.
You may have been the only native on the Board of Supervisors. In
I
fact,
don't know. Was Henry Wigger?
I don't know whether Henry was a native or not. He may have been. I'm not sure. And we were pretty close friends to boot, but I didn't want to get too close to him because he was running a funeral parlor.
Yes. How about Julie? Coyote, was he a native?
I have an idea he was.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, he was my favorite, I guess. I thought the world of Julie. When I first went on the board, I didn't know sickum about being a supervisor, and so he helped me a lot and gave me some good ideas.
he kind of took you under his wing.
Yeah, pretty much. We became really good friends.
What about Jack Ferguson?
Well, Jack and I never got really, really close. He was an attorney and lived a different style of life. And here I was in the horse business and garage business. So we didn't see a lot of each other.
And do you know if he was a native?
No, I don't. I really don't.
That'll be interesting to research because I think you are the only one, at least. And I mean, you were third generation, so you had incredible continuity in the valley.
Well, I guess so.
Do you have any? Did you have siblings or?
Yeah, I have three.
You have three?
I have two boys. Scott, who lives in St. Helena, Todd, who lives in Napa, and my daughter, who lives in Fresno.
Oh, I meant, did you have siblings, brothers
Oh,
and
did
sisters?
Brothers and sisters.
What was it?
Brothers and sisters.
Oh, no.
You were an only child?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay.
What about your sister?
Oh, my sister.
Your sister,
Yeah,
is she still living in Napa County?
No, she's in Fresno.
Ah, so she left.
She left.
All right. I think we're finished unless there's something that you would like to add.
Well, there isn't too much that I could add. I thoroughly enjoyed my 8 years on the Board of Supervisors. We accomplished a lot of things other than the Ag Preserve, and I met a lot of nice people, and even at the state level, and I had the opportunity of doing a little business with Ronald Reagan. In fact, I have a picture having lunch with him at Etna Springs in my office.
Really?
Yeah.
At Etna Springs?
Yeah.
Why was he there?
He was there when he was governor, and he was barnstorming. And but we got along. I served on a couple of his committees when he was governor. So I enjoyed his company.
Is this when you were on the Board of Supervisors?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What did you think of Ronald Reagan?
I thought the best of him.
Do you remember other issues that you were involved in on the Board of Supervisors that you might want to talk about? Besides the Ag Preserve?
Well, when I served on the Association of Bay Area Governments, which is where I met Jim, and they were trying to push us a little bit to put in more housing and do this and do that, and we weren't really ready to do those things, and so and so I happened to get around to getting the board to hire Jim.
Oh, yes, that's interesting. We forgot that. We didn't add that in. Could you talk about that, Jim, when you first met Dewey?
Well, there were two representatives from Napa County. One was Ralph Trower, who was the mayor, and he attended some of the meetings, and Dewey attended some of the meetings. And Dewey was very much of an advocate for the preserve. And at that point in time, I was working on the regional plan for the 9 Bay Area counties and 93 cities. And Dewey and I used to talk about the situation and the conditions in Napa County and what was happening. And finally he said, why don't you come up to Napa County and work on it? And I said, well, that's an interesting invitation. And actually, that's what happened. After the Association of Bay Area Governments adopted the regional plan, I resigned as the regional planning director and came to Napa County and was hired as the county planning director.
And remind us of the year for the record.
Oh, that was 1960. That was 1970. 1970.
I might add one more little tidbit. Jim had a lot better offer, salary-wise, with another county. I won't mention the name, but he had a pretty substantial offer to for the job. And I told him, you don't want that. you better come to Napa, and he did.
So we have you to thank.
Well,
Poor James Hickey.
well, he was that way because it was quite a difference in salary. But he said, "Well, I've got to be honest with you, Dewey. Napa County is the only county left in the whole area that has anything to save."
As far as
Nothing.
planning is concerned. Everybody else thought development was the end all and be all. And they had parties in counties when they reached 1 million population. Contra Costa County had a big to do. They had 1 million people, and San Jose and that end of the Bay Area, Santa Clara, they had a big party when they got to 1 million. So having 1 million people was good. Everybody wanted to have 1 million people, except Napa County.
Why do you think Napa County was so different?
Well, I think Napa County just had a whole different mindset. Napa County is not on anybody's main highway going anywhere. The highway to Sacramento goes through Solano County. The highway up the coast goes through Sonoma County. And Napa County is kind of in a little pocket there where you don't have a lot of traffic going through it. And I think they kind of lived a different lifestyle. And the wine industry was being successful, and the Ag Preserve came along, which guaranteed people they could invest in the wine industry, and they didn't have to worry about houses and businesses and industries crowding them out. And so that was a major step to encourage the wine industry. You didn't have the problems you would have in other parts of California, where agriculture was simply considered a holding action until something better came along, and the better was always development. So Napa County was unique, and it had a different philosophy. It had a different board of supervisors. It had a future that was not urban development.
He's covered it pretty well.
Very well put. Dewey, I want to thank you so much for giving us time today. It's been so important to be able to get your story. So thank you for taking the time to be interviewed.
It's a pleasure.
This concludes the interview with Dewey Anderson and with James Hickey. Thank you.